Okay, so in this video, we're going to talk about solving quadratics by the square root property. And I'm going to motivate this with an example. So let's just, without me telling you anything, what are all the solutions to x squared equals 25? Well, of course, 5 squared would equal 25, right? So 5 squared equals 25. But there is another. The other would be negative 5. Because if I took negative 5 and I squared it, that would be negative 5 times negative 5, so that equals 25. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that there's actually two solutions to this equation, and so that is something that we need to capture in how we solve square root property type problems. So I'll just show you the rule here. So we're going to let q be some expression and k is a constant. So if I wanted to solve q squared equals k, then what I would do is I would take the square root of k, but here's the key. I would take plus or minus that square root. So this is kind of the thing with the square root property. Okay, so when we apply the square root property, we tend to use slightly more interesting problems like this one here. So not just x squared, but now x plus 3 squared equals 25. Okay, so for this, it's literally the same idea though. So I'm going to start by taking the square root of each side. But when I take the square root of the side with the constant, I'm going to put a plus or minus in front of it. So this becomes x plus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 25, i.e. x plus 3 equals plus or minus 5. Now, what makes this slightly more interesting is that I still have this x plus 3, so I'm trying to solve for x. So now that I'm at this point, I just have to finish solving for x, and I would do that by subtracting 3. So what ends up happening? I have negative 3 plus or minus 5. So if you can solve this, then you should. So what this effectively does is this breaks x into two separate solutions. The first solution will be x equals negative 3 plus 5, so that means x equals 2. And the second solution will be x equals negative 3 minus 5, so that means that x equals negative 8. And so these are your two solutions, okay? So that's the idea. Okay, so let's take that idea now and let's apply that here. So I've got x plus 3 squared equals 12. Okay, so you're going to notice that the square root of 12 is not a whole number. So I want you just to work this one out as far as you can, just using the same idea. Hit play when you think you've got it. Remember, math is not a spectator sport. You'll learn more if you actually try this. Okay, so, oops, I'm going to grab the white pen. So this will be x plus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 12. Okay, so in this case, I can simplify the square root of 12. So this will be negative 3 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 3. So that's really as far as I can go. Okay, and I usually get this question about this with like homework systems. So most homework systems will not take the plus or minus, unfortunately. So most homework systems are going to make you break out the two separate solutions. However, when it's me, I'm usually fine with the just plus or minus. So if you're like doing written work for me, if you're in my class, this you can just write out on like a test or whatever, but just a heads up, just about any homework system that I have seen makes you break these two out. So womp womp, I can't do anything about that. Okay, so let's try another one. Okay, so now I've got 5x minus 2 squared plus 5 equals 29. So, you know, if you've been playing along at home, you know, watching this channel for a while, hopefully you know that math is extremely literal. So when we talk about that this is how you use the square root property, the main thing with this is that the thing that's being squared is isolated. So I bring that up because here our squared thing has a plus 5. So what's the first thing that you've got to do? First thing you've got to do is subtract the 5. Okay, so once you get to that point, now you can go from here. So what I would like you to do is once again, pause here, give it a try, hit play when you're ready. Okay, so I'm going to have 5x minus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 24. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and add 2 to both sides, and I'm going to, let's see, this is going to be 2 plus or minus the square root of 24 will become 2 times the square root of 6. And then this one's just slightly more awkward because now I'm going to divide everything by 5. So this will be x equals 2/5 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 6 over 5. Okay, so that's it for that one. I've got one more here just to kind of cover all of the bases. So give this one a try one more time. If you get this one, you've probably got a decent handle on this topic. Hit play when you're ready. So first things first, I need to subtract the 4. And so then I get that this will equal negative 45. So the reason that this one is interesting is so when I take the square root, now I'm going to have to use imaginary numbers, right? Because this is the square root of negative 45. Okay, so no problem, but we just want to acknowledge that we're going to have to use imaginary numbers now. So I'm going to subtract off the 7. So I have 6x equals negative 7 plus or minus. Okay, so how will this simplify? So we can take 9, this will be negative 1 times 9 times 5. So this will simplify to 3i times the square root of 5. And then I need to divide everything by 6, and I'm going to turn this into 2 separate fractions. So this is negative 7 over 6 plus or minus 3i times the square root of 5 over 6. And so you'll notice, so the 3 and the 6 can actually cancel out. So I'm just going to write this. I'm just going to erase and write this out again as I times the square root of 5 over 2. So you can't actually simplify that. Okay, so that's the idea of the square root property. So you're going to use this more in the next video. So I'm actually going to leave it at that. And I will drop some more examples about this. So if you want to see a few more, feel free to check out that instruction. And otherwise, I'm going to leave it here, guys. If you found this helpful, I would absolutely love it if you hit like. And otherwise, I will talk to you guys next time. Peace.